It is time once again to perform a 2022 NHL mock draft. So before we do the mock draft, we're going to hop onto the computer. We're going to do a draft lottery simulation based on the standings as of today, see who wins the top 2 lottery picks, round out our top 10, and complete the top 10 selections. And that's coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned today, we're completing a draft lottery simulation and a mock draft for the top 10 picks in the 2022 NHL draft. Now, we've been doing these simulations about every 4 or 5 weeks. Obviously, as the standings change, the teams that are in or out of the lottery can change. The player prospects are going to change the ranking systems based on how they're doing. And it kind of just shakes things up and makes things a little bit more fun and interesting to take a look at here. So let's hop onto the computer. We're going to go on to tankathon.com where we can do the NHL draft lottery simulation, see who gets the top lottery picks, round out our top 10, and then we'll complete our selections. I'll explain why I feel the players are going to go in that particular order, and we'll discuss here afterwards. So here we are on tankathon.com. We're going to take a look first at the teams that are in the draft lottery, look at the standings. So obviously the lottery, as you can see, goes from pick 1 down to 16. Of course, you can only move up maximum 10 spots unless you're an 11 or higher. You don't have a shot at going to first overall, but right now the team with the best odds to win this pick is Arizona. Montreal's played better as of late and worked their way out of the basement to the number 2 spot. Then of course you got Seattle, Philadelphia, New Jersey, Buffalo, Ottawa, Columbus by way of Chicago. Of course the Hawks are going to be giving that pick over to Columbus unless it's a top 2 selection. Then of course you get the New York Islanders, Detroit Red Wings, San Jose Sharks, Winnipeg Jets, Anaheim Ducks, Vancouver Canucks, Columbus Blue Jackets, and Edmonton Oilers make up the rest of the teams currently selected to be as part of the lottery. So we're going to simulate the lottery, see who gets the picks, who gets the first 2, which would be done through this method. And then the rest of the draft order will be determined based on standings. And then from there, we'll go ahead and I'll tell you who I think are going to make the top 10 selections. So let's go ahead and simulate the lottery and see what happens. There you have it. The winners of the draft lottery is the New York Islanders. Are certainly having a down season for sure. This would be a great way for them to kind of come out of things. The Seattle Kraken also win one of the lottery spots and move up to the number 2 spot. So that'll effectively bump everybody else down. That puts the Coyotes at 3, Montreal at 4, Philly at 5, Jersey at 6, the Sabres at 7, the Senators at 8. Number 9 will go to the Jackets by way of the Chicago Blackhawks pick that they got for Seth Jones. And then the number 10 pick will be the Detroit Red Wings. So now we're going to hop into the next part of the video where I tell you who I think will be the top 10 selections. As I mentioned, picking first overall is the New York Islanders, and I have no doubt that it will take Shane Wright. I know there's been a lot of debate lately about some of the other prospects here, giving Wright a real run for the first overall selection here and being designated the top prospect in the draft. I think he's played better as of late. He's going to have a chance here to finish strong and prove himself. And I think the Islanders would take him being the top center here available in the draft. Certainly they need to add some more scoring. They need to get younger, more skilled. And Wright certainly is a player who would help tremendously. They could go with Barzal and Wright as the top 2 centers down the middle here for the foreseeable future. And that would be a huge boost for New York to have a down season and come back and get the opportunity to pick first overall, which is something that hasn't happened to this franchise in a really long time. Picking second overall is the Seattle Kraken in their second draft in the history of the franchise, and I have them taking Slovakian winger JURAJ SLAFKOVSKY. Now, he had a tremendous showing here at the 2022 Winter Olympics, representing his country of Slovakia. Of course, he normally plays hockey for TPS in Finland, having himself a real solid year. So overall, I think we've seen some tremendous growth amongst this guy. Like I said, you get the size, the skill, the scoring touch. A pretty good overall player, certainly something that's missing from the Kraken lineup, and I do think there's a pretty good opportunity here that he will give Shane Wright between himself and Logan Cooley, probably 2 of the players who could actually rival him for possibly being the top pick, but I think at the end of the day he'll end up going number 2. Picking third overall, we have the Arizona Coyotes, and we have them selecting Logan Cooley. Obviously, another big center iceman here in this NHL draft. The Coyotes are going for a complete teardown, complete rebuild. So this is a player that they can certainly be patient with, as he is scheduled to be playing U.S. college hockey, going to University of Minnesota for some time. Cooley comes in about 5'10", 180 pounds, playing hockey for the United States national team development program. Certainly a player who has a lot of upside for sure, a player who's gotten a lot of recognition this year. And again, like I said about the previous prospect here, a guy who could possibly rival Wright as for first overall. But to me, it makes a lot of sense for the Coyotes to go with this route. Not only is he arguably the best player available at this spot, but somebody they can be patient with as they go through their rebuild. Picking fourth overall, we have the Montreal Canadiens, and I have them selecting from the WHL's Winnipeg Ice, Matthew Savoie. Now, of course, he's a tremendous hockey player, a gifted kid, of course, who's been ranked in the top 5 really the entire time, looking back for the last year or so. Having a solid year with the Winnipeg Ice, putting up so far 67 points in 49 games. Not an overly big guy, 5'10", around 180, but still a tremendously gifted offensive player. I can see him making a real solid contribution to the Habs lineup as early as, maybe not next year, but the year after, and giving the Habs some real solid depth down the middle with him and Suzuki likely being your top 2 centermen here for the foreseeable future. Extremely talented. I think he kind of fits the mold with a lot of what the Habs are looking to do here as they certainly go to retool or rebuild here with the new regime in place. Be interesting to see who they do select depending on where they fall in the draft order. But if they're picking fourth, I think this is an excellent choice for the Habs. Next up at number 5, we have the Philadelphia Flyers, and I have them selecting Simon Nemec, who's arguably the best defenseman here in this draft. I mean, Nemec has certainly got a decent size, 6'1", 192 pounds, of course represented Slovakia at the World Junior Championships. Nemec is a player who's going to definitely go in the top 10 for sure, and I think it's just going to boil down to who is picking in what order. He's having another solid year. Doesn't tend to score a lot of goals, but he gets a lot of assists, good passer, decent in his own end for his age. So certainly a team like Philadelphia looking to rebuild their blue line, certainly I think is going to be looking for this kind of player. Depending on where they pick, of course, if they were to pick higher, they might go a different route. But if they're picking in that 5, 6, 7 range, they'll likely try to take one of the top D-men here, and Nemec just makes the most sense for them, in my opinion, at this spot. Next up, we have the New Jersey Devils, and I have them again going on a run of defensemen here, taking David JIRICEK. Now, JIRICEK is a player who suffered an unfortunate knee injury at the World Junior Championships, which keep him out for a lengthy time here, but certainly a highly regarded defenseman, 6'3", 176 pounds, from the Czech Republic, or Czechia, I guess they prefer to be called now. Certainly a player, even though with the injury, still going to be very highly regarded when it gets to draft time. Having a tremendous season prior to the injury. I think a team like the Devils with a lot of high-end talent up front could certainly still stand to build out from the blue line. They do have some younger players on back there that are having some decent effects, like a Ty Smith. Ryan Graves isn't overly old. Of course, they got Dougie Hamilton long-term. But with all the upfront talent, to me, it makes sense to go for a D-man in this scenario. Next up at 7th overall, we have the Buffalo Sabres. And I have them selecting from Finland, Joakim KEMELL. Now, KEMELL's a heck of a player. He could even go higher in the draft than I have him here. Wouldn't be an overly shock or surprise. At the end of the day, I think it just boils down to who's selecting. But certainly, KEMELL, as he's not really small, but he's not really big. He's 5'11", 176. He could still run himself out. Considering he's barely not even 18 yet, it wouldn't even be shocking if he grew a little bit more and, of course, filled out his body to be a little bit bigger by the time he makes the NHL. But certainly playing in Liga for JYP, putting up some decent numbers. He had 19 points in 31 games this year, had 5 goals in 5 games, playing internationally for Finland earlier, had a real good Helenka Gretzky tournament. This guy is certainly going to be a standout player. Like I said, I wouldn't be shocked even to see him end up going, a few spots higher than I have him. Selecting 8th overall, we have the Ottawa Senators, and I have them selecting forwards. He's a winger and a centerman, Brad Lambert, of course, who's got dual citizenship here between Canada and Finland. Of course, he's mostly grown up in Finland, playing hockey over there for the last number of years, but of course his family is, on his father's side, is Canadian. Of course, his uncle is Lane Lambert, who coaches with the New York Islanders. Of course, he can play center and wing, decent size, 6 feet tall, about 180 pounds. Did have some struggles earlier this year and ended up changing teams, which is unfortunate, but certainly a situation where he was playing with the JYP team, ended up going back to the Pelicans in Liga. Seems to be doing a little bit better, but it's amazing how he had such a strong World Junior Championship tournament. He had some really, really strong games there. Now, of course, the tournament didn't end up getting completed. It will be replayed in August, so it'll be obviously at that point too late for him to kind of re-showcase himself. But still, he put up 5 points in the first 2 games of that tournament. Overall, playing for Finland. He did much better than during league play. So to me, he's a good play driver, certainly drives a lot of offense, and I think he can be an excellent player for the Senators, the kind of player they don't have who could round out their middle six quite nicely. Selecting 9th overall is the Columbus Blue Jackets by way of Chicago, and I have them selecting Frank Nazar. Now, Nazar's a player, to me, he's kind of flown under the radar a little bit, but certainly a real solid prospect here from the USA National Team Development Program. Put up 27 points in 17 games. Certainly done well as well in other opportunities. He is committed to playing U.S. college hockey for the University of Michigan, which is a tremendous program. He's not overly big, which is probably the reason why he's not higher on the list. Which is still, I know, something that even though size doesn't matter as much as it used to, some teams certainly do still look at that to some degree. He's 5'9", about 163 pounds, so he certainly needs to get a little bit stronger and fill out the frame, put some more muscle on for sure to be more likely to be successful at the NHL. But his stats speak for themselves. A talented player. He can play a variety of positions, but mostly on the wing. Nazar, I think, would be a great fit for the Jackets, who are obviously looking for some different players here as they kind of retool their team moving forward. Selecting 10th overall, we have the Detroit Red Wings, and I have them selecting the big center from the Western Hockey League's Winnipeg Ice, CONOR GEEKIE. Of course, GEEKIE is 6'4", 205 pounds, of course, related to Morgan, who plays for the Seattle team in the NHL, so certainly, gets the size and strength there, having some solid numbers in the Western Hockey League as well. This year, putting up 53 points in 48 games played. A big, strong centerman, certainly could not hurt the Red Wings in this case. When you're picking at this point in the first round, though, you're kind of going to go with some of the first overall or top, I guess, highest ranked players, not necessarily by position. But as much as Detroit has a decent prospect pool, it could not hurt at all to add a big, strong centerman here like CONOR GEEKIE. So those are my top 10 picks. I certainly want to know what your thoughts are. As I mentioned, leave some comments down below so we can discuss about who you feel is going to where in the draft, and leave your rationale behind what players you think should go to each team, and we'll discuss further. If you're new to this channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the latest news, rumors, and analysis on all 32 NHL teams. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.